strangely feels like a lifetime ago since the album Norman fucking Rockwell, which came out in 2019, received a huge amounts of praise, heaps of acclaim, heaps of praise, heaps of love from audiences of, you know, music, of music, and her fan base and critics, and everyone just seemed to come together to show a lot of love for this album. Even racking up some Grammy nominations as well, which was a pretty big thing, I feel, for Lana Del Rey's career. I think for some artists, you know, getting that recognition can kind of feel like a point where you've made it, especially if you've gone a lot of years without really getting as many nominations, and then 1 year you just get a ton of them for one album. It must be a pretty big feeling. And I saw I saw the praise for the album. I understood why people seem to love it. I was a bit confused at some of the praises though, that seemed to claim that it was a completely different album for Lana and a really mature lyrical album for Lana. I don't think I'd go that far. I don't think it was that much of a huge step up in terms of how it sounded and how the album, you know, was structured, and the style of music that she was doing, the lyrics. There wasn't a huge shift, I don't think. I think critics were a bit overboard with that praise, but I still think it was a pretty solid listen. Definitely some of my favorite tracks from her to date, with like Venice Bitch, the track Marina's Apartment Complex, some of her best songs, period. I think. I still think Born to Die is the better album, but I still think, you know, those tracks are really good. And since then, she's caught a bit of controversy. I think it wasn't long after that where she started talking about how female artists focus too much on selling sex in their music, which has never really been a new thing. Musicians for decades have been selling sex. Sex has always sold, but it seemed as though her comments rubbed people the wrong way. I don't think they were that bad, but, you know, what am I to say? Internet overreactions are just beyond me. I never quite get it. I've seen some stuff recently as well about this album. Lots of people talking about race. I don't know. Has she said something that's been racist? I've missed it. If I've missed it, I don't know. It doesn't really have anything to do with the album, but yeah, I'm seeing people talk about these social issues, linking them to Lana Del Rey's music, and somehow applying it to this new album. Look, correct me in the comments. Has she said something? I don't know. But if she has, then that might make sense. But yeah, I'm seeing some weird stuff linked to this album. I don't get it anyway, but still, the album as a standalone piece, for me, just isn't all that good. And not because of the things I've just said there. I think generally a lot of people tend to have a sour taste in their mouth about their favorite artists after they say or do things that they don't align with personally. I think you're boxing artists too narrowly, because I don't think you're going to find that many artists that totally agree with everything you believe in. So if you just focus on the music on its own, I think you'll probably do better, really. I think it's just the best way to go. And for me, I was, you know, not the biggest fan of her music to begin with anyway, so it's going to take a lot to convince me. And this album for me is just a bit dry. It's just dry. There is not a huge amounts of variation across the whole thing, which I think her last album had the issue of. So what am I to say here? I'm just not won over. Like I say, it needed to take a lot for me to be totally convinced on a new Lana Del Rey album, and this just hasn't done that. The opening track, White Dress, has a bit of an odd, weird feeling to it. She has these weird, strange vocalisms, but she keeps going like in and out of this high-pitched voice. It's a really jarring vocal performance, I think. I was a bit bit confused listening to her voice on this track. Lyrically, kind of the usual stuff, that kind of like nostalgic longing, the sort of hopeless romanticism that she goes for in a lot of her music too. Just something that just didn't really quite work in terms of the vocals, but pretty typical lyrical stuff from Lana Del Rey. And then from there, the album just continues to be dehydrated for me. I'm just left so dry listening to this. The production is really standard. It's pretty so-so at points. I'm just sort of waiting for this like swelling instrumentation to take me away, sweep me off my feet, and completely be won over by Lana's vocal performances and the music that is backing her voice. And there's just like no moments that do that at all. I think if you're going to do a very stripped back, delicate album, you need at least a great voice, which, you know, is subjective. Maybe you do think Lana has a fantastic voice, but I don't know if she does on this album. The title track, I think her voice is just pretty not really that won over by it. Once again, still not fussed on this track at all. And I don't know, man, I just think, again, if you just had a voice that was so like breathtaking or just so like ear grabbing immediately, this song would be amazing. Take a Julia Holter song, just listen to anything she's put out. Her voice is so bloody good, and that is just the immediate attraction you get listening to her. And these tracks on this album don't have that. They just don't. There are certainly moments where the instrumentals are really beautiful though. Wild at Heart really picks up towards the end. This is the swelling instrumentation I was waiting for. The strings surrounding her feel alive. They just amp up in the best way. And I think they probably should have, you know, been a bigger feature across this album. These really beautiful chamber pop inspired instrumentals, there should have been more of them, and I think moments like this really do win me over. It's pretty late in the song though, and up until that point I'm not really that sold on her lyrics. Just typical Lana with her whole like wild at heart thing. You know, she's just so rebellious, and she says it in such a convincing way, I'm wild at heart. It's like, who are you convincing? You don't sound wild in the slightest. My finger probably is wilder than the way you're trying to convince me how wild you are at this point. Are you even wild in your shoe? I don't even think you're probably wild in your shoe. The vocals aren't particularly enamoring on the track Let Me Love You Like a Woman either. It doesn't really help that the lyrics here, just grabbing what I wrote down, are just really standard. I think I've heard this a billion times. Let me love you like a woman. Let me hold you like a baby. Let me shine like a diamond. No. Just don't sing me these words. I've said this before, but lyrics aren't everything, and I think you can get away with these kinds of tame lyrical ideas that she presents across all of this album if the music was compelling, if her vocals were selling it in a unique way, but there's not really much of that with Lana's album here. We get to the track Not All Those Who Wander Are Lost, which I guess is an interesting lyrical idea, not the not the most original thing I've ever heard, but it's probably more original than some of the things across this album. But I can't help but just feel like there's this hipsterism to what she's saying here. Like, there's always that with Lana's music, really, but here particularly. I could just imagine her going like, it's okay, baby. It's okay, honey. I'm not lost. I'm just wandering through the trees and the flowers. Oh my God, the flowers. I'm just wandering, honey. I'm not lost. I'm just wandering. It's okay, baby. I'll come back to you. I'll be back soon, baby. Come on, you totally imagine her doing that. You do, don't you? You do. If you're a fan of her, you could definitely imagine Lana Del Rey doing that shit. And then from there, I mean, well, I can't really say from there. It's kind of been all there all along, but pretty much from there, the next few songs just sound the same. Like, there's just no variation in the sound here, which again just amplifies this idea that the album's just so dry. I just am waiting for a bit of variation here and there, and I just don't get it. And I think it doesn't help that the original sound, the vibe, the emotions that Lana is bringing to the table don't really impact me that much to begin with. So once she gets like track 8, 9, it's just pretty dull. Now once you get to Dance Till We Die though, I really like it where her voice amps up. She has this moment on the song where she really just gives off this attitude, this really like rebellious attitude actually, where she's kind of like referencing, you know, places she used to live or places she wants to go. There's a nostalgic feel to it as well, where she's referencing artists. She name drops Joni Mitchell, Joan Jett, I think she does, the Rolling Stones. Like obviously it's still in her wheelhouse to kind of reference the 60s and those time periods and stuff, or the 70s, etc. But I still think the way she's selling these lyrics is really good. I like her voice here. I would like to see her do more upbeat songs. I think she has a good voice for that, but instead she sticks to this kind of like moany, like across the whole album, and I don't know if that's her best vocal tone. I feel like she's not accessing the best of her vocal abilities ever, really. The final track is a complete change because it's a Joni Mitchell cover. As soon as that piano comes on, it's immediately recognizable. It's classic Joni. For Free is an amazing song, I think, and really should be where Lana takes more inspiration from. You need to look at artists like Joni if you're going to do an album like this, because Chemtrails just ain't got anything on the majority of Joni's albums. We have 2 surprise features though, well, surprises for me, because I wasn't expecting to see these names on an album from Lana Del Rey. You got Zella Day and Wise Blood, who are both really good artists actually. Zella dropped a good EP last year. If you've never listened to it, go check it out, it was good. And Wise Blood has been fantastic for quite a few years now. And another artist I always point to when thinking of Lana Del Rey, because Titanic Rising just has all of those qualities that I think I'm looking for in what Lana Del Rey is trying to do here. I probably name dropped Wise Blood in the last Lana Del Rey review. Go watch that review. If I did, then look, I ain't surprised. Just the immediate like attachment I get to tracks like Andromeda or Everyday or Movies, like they are just swelling, they build. Wise Blood has a beautiful voice, and these 2 features just kind of upstage Lana, really. Like they make me just feel like I should have been listening to these artists the whole time instead of listening to this album. But that's just how I feel. I can already sense an extreme negative reaction to this review, so before I go any further, we'll stop there. I'm just not feeling it. It just goes in one ear, out the other. Just totally unremarkable to me. Yeah, I have nothing much else to say. 5 out of 10, unfortunately, as you probably could predict. Not a fan of this. Let me know your thoughts though. Would love to hear what you guys have to think in the comments. I'm sure you guys like this a lot more than I do. And if you do, tell me why. Thank you for watching this review. Do have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already, that would be great. I do say positive things in other reviews, so you should subscribe to stick around for those. Have a good day. Subscribe. I've just said that. Goodbye.